Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Retro Pop Planet. And you're probably wondering why I'm wearing this ridiculous outfit. Well, you see, I've been pulling shifts just to make ends meet down at St. Elmo's. Some flake that's been working there just quit, so I had to pick up a double shift today. All right, breaking the fourth wall a bit. This video I've been working on for about a year, although I have been scouting out these locations for at least 15 years. When I was in school at Georgetown, we used to talk about this movie all of the time. I am talking about Joel Schumacher's film St. Elmo's Fire, featuring the Brat Pack. This is like the one Brat Pack movie that John Hughes has nothing to do with. And what's so amazing about this movie is that at least 3 of the cast members had just played teenagers in the seminal John Hughes film, The Breakfast Club. And this was the film that they shot right after. Now, arguably, this is more age appropriate for those actors at the time. However, this movie was actually a huge flop. It just could not really find an audience, but I still love it, and I'm assuming if you're watching this video today that you do also. Now, what is going to make my video unique from some other YouTubers is that I have spent so much time scouting these locations, both in person and also geolocating them. So without further ado, let's get on to the filming locations for 1985's St. Elmo's Fire. So the movie begins with our cast leaving an admin building upon their graduation from Georgetown University. In reality, this scene was shot on Fraternity Row at the University of Maryland in College Park.
The famous first shot of the movie is all the guys lined up walking out of a building on campus after graduating from college, and that was supposed to be Georgetown University. Well,
as the story goes, when scouting locations for the film, Joel Schumacher met with Georgetown Vice Provost J. Donald Freeze, who turned him down, saying that he read the script and felt that depictions of premarital sex, drug use, and other behavior weren't in keeping with the Jesuit University's values. Joel reminded the father that The Exorcist had shot on the Georgetown campus. Father Freeze told him, yes, but in that movie, the devil didn't win. Still in the credits, we hear the sound of a crashing car, and we soon learn that Billy and Wendy are in the emergency room getting treated for injuries sustained in that post-graduation crash. Billy is instantly portrayed as the bad boy, and we're introduced to everyone all at once. This movie wastes zero time giving you all the exposition. Billy is playing his sax in the ambulance and then takes a quick ride down to the jail as we learn he had been drinking. Mind you, the credits are still rolling. Originally, I thought this could have been filmed at a real medical center, but I'll address this location later in the video as we eventually come back here, because Kirby's crush, Dale Bieberman, also works here.
I'm now standing outside the Georgetown University Hospital System, the MedStar building. This is where Dale would have worked, but I can guarantee that the filming was not actually done here because, as I mentioned previously, Georgetown did not allow filming on campus, and this is directly behind the university on campus. So this is where Kirby would have talked to Dale outside of her place of business. If it was filmed here on campus, it would be almost impossible to line up shot for shot because this hospital system has been expanded upon and reconstructed and upgraded over the years, and it is massive. And wherever that location in LA where they filmed this section of the movie, they do a pretty good job of actually picking the same color of red brick, which would actually be here on campus at Georgetown.
It's now time to shift vibes as the scene fades to our first Georgetown montage and we get the song. You know the one. If you ask anyone about this movie in the DC area, the first spot they name is 3rd Edition, seen here on the left.
One of the opening establishing shots of the movie, you get an angle right about here of what used to be 3rd Edition. This was a very popular hangout back in the day. I used to hang out here a lot, and I think it closed sometime in 2011, and now it's this El Centro. You get this angle briefly. This is kind of why most people think that St. Elmo's Bar was actually 3rd Edition. It had nothing to do with it.
The next brief clip is a view directly across the street on Wisconsin Avenue. I don't have any video from here, but you can see from geolocating that everything looks pretty much the same with the exception of this building here. At the time of the movie, it was a parking lot. We then get this iconic, albeit brief shot of the Georgetown neon sign, which I'm happy to report still exists.
Here's another shot from the movie. I believe this used to be the old Georgetown Theater. This neon is still here and it looks awesome.
Now it's finally time for our heroes to assemble at their base, St. Elmo's Bar. We need to have a quick chat about this location. It still exists, sort of, but it wasn't filmed in Georgetown. The filming took place at the Universal Studios backlot in Burbank, California on New York Street and was made over to look like Georgetown. It eventually became known as Georgetown Avenue as the street's redesign was kept in place for future productions. 2 fires wiped out large sections of the backlot. The first major fire happened after our movie wrapped in 1990, and the rebuilt street resembled the original 1984 design. The second fire was in 2008, and unfortunately was not rebuilt to match the same look. Thank you to IamNotAstalker.com and TheStudioTour.com for compiling this information. However, the real bar that St. Elmo's was modeled after is alive and well, and it's right next to Georgetown University.
Now I am right across the street from the famous St. Elmo's bar. I mean the Tombs. St. Elmo's was actually modeled after the Tombs, which if you have ever been to Georgetown or you're a student here, this is a pretty famous pub. It actually was closed down, I believe, during the pandemic. At least I tried going here once just to have lunch, which is what we're going to do today. Here's, however, were based off of what the Tombs interiors look like at the time, complete with that red tablecloth. However, they no longer have that decor in here. It's been updated. And if you want to know the location, we are actually right across the street from the Exorcist house. It's right there. I was in school at Georgetown. I went to a party here, and it gets pretty raucous on a Saturday night. It was a birthday party, and I was in my 20s, and they did not have that red tablecloth then, and that was a long time ago now. So I don't know when they got rid of that sort of decor, probably sometime in the mid-'80s.
The movie attempts to capture a specific moment in time in Georgetown history, and that is the rise of the preppy bars of the early 1980s. Co-eds from all over the DMV would flock to Georgetown for its nightlife and its lower drinking age. Schumacher taps into this cultural moment, but never quite sticks the landing, leaving many moviegoers with a real disdain for all of the characters. Do you want to go inside? Of course you do! Georgetown alumnus Richard McCooey founded the Tombs in 1962. He named it after a mention in T.S. Eliot's poem Bustopher Jones, The Cat About Town. The Tombs is now owned and operated by Clyde's Restaurant Group, which operate a number of famous restaurants in and around Washington, D.C. I was craving the shrimp salad. I came here on a Sunday, and you can see how crowded the restaurant can get. I think the movie's set designers did a really good job capturing that smoky bar feel of the 1980s, even though smoking was banned in bars in Washington in 2007. During these opening conversations, we really get a sense of who each character is. I guess they'd be defined as yuppies or young urban professionals, which was a slang term very much used in this period to identify younger upper middle class adults. Even though they're all pretty ambitious people, the crux is that they're all more than a little depressed to leave college behind. Here we learn that Billy is a young father and married, as he has a drunken conversation with his estranged wife. The attention to detail with set design is spot on. Q107 was a really popular top 40 radio station with talented area DJs. The same goes for this bumper sticker of the Grease Man on DC 101. One of the earliest shock jocks. Everyone is mad at Billy for being a trash human. He has a young wife and baby stuck at home. He's openly dating Wendy and still working his moves on other co-eds. His buddies take him to the bathroom and give him a swirly. This makes me laugh every time I see this scene. I'm convinced swirlies weren't actually a real thing, but everyone in the 80s talked about them like they were. And because I'm a completionist, let's check out the actual bathroom. I mean, obviously the interiors were a set, because the real bathroom is even tinier. It's time to end the night and advance to some point in the future. Alec and Leslie are redecorating their new apartment, which is huge. This studio would at least be close to $250,000 in the 80s. It's obvious this is a set. Jules drops in for a drink and to spill the tea on her crappy family, and Leslie lets her crash, much to Alec's annoyance. Flash over to Kevin's pad where he's solo rocking out to Aretha Franklin. Kirby enters and we realize that they're roommates. This is also a set. Kirby then goes on and on about Dale Bieberman. Billy shows up unannounced and wants to crash here as his wife trouble continues. Moving on to another day, we get this great boom shot of Georgetown from across the Potomac River. Then a steady shot of one of the locks on the C&O Canal. Here's where that was filmed. I'll see if we can get any closer, but this is the view of the locks in that one quick establishing shot. Of course, there's no water. I'm guessing the cameraman was below me in a boat because I'm standing on a bridge and this is as close as I could get. I don't know what the deal is with the water, but this canal is almost always empty. I'm seeing the reopening of this famous landmark for years now, and here's one of the canal boats. It's just been sitting here forever. I'm not really sure exactly what the plan is, but when I was a kid, it was gorgeous, and you would have the mules pull you up and down, and you could take the whole canal trip. It was awesome. Now that we've established the scene, we see Leslie furniture shopping this cute little antique store. Okay, let's see if I can attempt to line up the shots, but right here was the antique store. In the movie, it would have been about like this. I can't step back too far because there's a tree right behind me, but in the background, you can see the spire right there. That is Wisconsin Avenue. So roughly right here. The building, of course, has changed colors, but this was actually an antique store back in the 80s. It was called Cynthia Fair. Jules and Wendy are shopping a boutique nearby. They come out and flirt with a couple of college bros. All of the college kid extras look a steady 35 years old. Kind of hard to tell now, but this is the shop that Wendy and Jules would have come out of. This is the boutique store that they were shopping in. You can actually see the building behind the porch that is there. However, it's covered by this brick wall, which actually wasn't here during time of filming. And this is about the angle that you get during the movie, and then they, of course, walk out this direction. I didn't realize it until editing this video, but Kevin and Kirby are just outside the antique shop hanging with a guy that looks like Sting. This is about where they are lingering. Based on Kevin's persistent moodiness regarding his wannabe reporter career, I'm wondering if this is supposed to be his editor. Anyway, this is where they were standing. The wooden gate is now wrought iron and the vines are long gone. Billy's flirting with some girls outside of 3rd edition, and a peeved Alec drags him away as the rest of the gang pulls up in a Jeep. Is this supposed to be St. Elmo's? I'm pretty sure this is where the confusion about the Wisconsin Avenue location comes in. If you continue up this road for several miles in the direction the camera is pointing, you'll wind up in Maryland. Alec and Billy pile in after he tells Wendy about his successful interview as an elections pollster. Roughly the angle you get when Billy is leaning against the menu box, which is still here. And then the gang walks in this direction, the Jeep pulls up here, and you can see this off in the background. And then they hop in the Jeep and ride away. And there's a Jeep. Who wants to suck back a few Bloody Marys at St. Elmo's on me? This is Jules yelling at the very overcrowded Jeep's passengers. The problem? They're driving away from St. Elmo's, or what we assume is St. Elmo's. And Georgetown is behind them. Don't they supposedly live there? They're literally driving toward downtown DC. I love weird little geographical inconsistencies like this in movies. I struggle with this one a bit because it doesn't make a lot of logistical sense, but the Jeep is coming towards me.
away from Wisconsin down here on P, and then it makes a super cut on O Street. And you can tell because you can see this garage that has the 3 windows, and these rows of townhouses back here would have been in color, and they had a boom shot, so the camera was panning up above the street level. But this one was really tough to find.
Kevin and Jules wind up back at her apartment for a drink, which, let's be honest, is the entire decade wrapped up in a nutshell. Complete with what looks like a Patrick Nagel mural on cocaine. Jules has been friends with Kevin for years, and because he didn't really date in college, she somehow thinks he'd be interested in her next door neighbor. I feel like this scene exists solely to show off her totally excessive lifestyle. And again, sorry to say, this entire location is a set. Let's address the scene locations for a moment. Joel Schumacher was allegedly notorious for his insistence on filming scenes where they take place, despite whatever budgetary restrictions. Washington, D.C. can be a challenging place to film due to all of the security concerns and tax restrictions. While a good portion of the movie was filmed on location in Georgetown, most of the interiors, as well as other miscellaneous scenes, were filmed on a backlot. But our next scene was actually filmed at a formerly famous restaurant in Los Angeles. I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, but La Orangerie was just as notable as a French restaurant and celebrity hotspot as it was a prime movie and TV show filming location. It was located at 426 South Robertson Boulevard in Los Angeles. The restaurant closed its doors way back in 2006 and reopened some years later as Nobu. I won't go through the list of film appearances, but it does appear as the hoity-toity Chicago restaurant in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And apparently Rob Lowe celebrated his 40th birthday here. How's that for a connection? This is where they filmed the weird date scene with Kirby and Dale. Oh yeah, and when Kirby's speaking with Jules to get her advice, I believe her office is filmed at the old bank building at 650 Spring Street in LA. Now labeled the Majestic, St. Elmo's Fire is listed amongst hundreds of productions filmed there. We're finally at the Fluff and Fold. People I talk with about this movie seem to always remember the Fluff and Fold scene, even if they've forgotten the plot of the rest of the film. So this location should be easy to find in Georgetown, right? That's because when Kirby and Kevin exit the laundromat, the roadway in frame looks a lot like M Street. There's one big clue that unfolded, pun intended, the entire location. If you freeze the frame here, you see a restaurant and a dress across the street. I did a quick internet search for La Fourchette, and I immediately discovered it wasn't located in Georgetown at all. The restaurant closed in 2016 after 38 years in business, and the address was 2429 18th Street Northwest. That's Adams Morgan, almost 3.5 miles away from Georgetown University. Here is the location of the Fluff and Fold. It's a B&K convenience store now, but these are the windows that Kirby and Kevin are looking out of, because you can see these buildings across the street, and there was a restaurant over here at the time, and that is how I found this location. I didn't go inside because nothing looked the same as it did in the movie, and there's this huge gate across the window now. It's some sort of head shop or bodega. We finally begin to learn why Kevin has been so sullen, and it happens around Leslie in her soundstage loft. He's had a crush on her all through college, and can see her slipping away as she settles down with Alec. The next location has driven me nuts for years. It's Naomi's Alley, who is a sex worker that playfully ribs Kevin about his love life as he returns home. I've finally convinced myself that this had to have been filmed on a backlot, even though you can see cars and people moving past at the far end of the alley. There's a blues club in the alley, and while it's true Georgetown was known for its blues and jazz clubs, nothing matched up with real life, or at least not close enough for me.
One of the locations I also believe to be a set was Kevin's apartment. You see multiple times that he's hanging out by an antique store and then goes inside right by it, and there's a blues club in the background, a jazz and blues club. This is the only jazz and blues club in Georgetown. This is legendary, and it's been through a number of different ownership groups over the years, and this does not look anything like the location in the movie, but this is an alley. So again, I believe that whole street, that block in the movie was actually a Hollywood set.
So that was it. I gave up. It wasn't until I was bedridden from my injury just a month or so later where I used Google Street View to walk block after block of Georgetown. Still frustrated, I tried a different tact, and it was right in front of us this entire time. Judging from the various movie location blogs and YouTube videos I've watched, I'm the only one to have found this filming location. I started walking around Adams Morgan, and well, I'm stoked to show you not only Naomi's alley, but also Kevin and Kirby's apartment. This is it, guys. This is the location, and you can see it actually still has graffiti on this wall here, and everything matches up like it does in the movie, except for the construction that's going on here. This was the location of the jazz club that had me so confused in the movie, and it may have actually been a fake location with a fake sign. It is a doorway, but it doesn't look like it's an actually functioning door. But this is the alleyway that you see Kevin in a couple different points in the film walk down here and then speak to the sex worker on the corner. This is about the view that you get in the movie as the folks are hanging out here outside of the jazz club. And you can clearly see these shops. Again, it's covered by this construction, but these are bump out windows. And the really obvious tell are these, I guess it's a cornice. The brickwork here matches up as it does in the movie. So right about here is where Kevin has his conversation, and then he goes inside their apartment. You can see the lights of the street behind them, but it was really hard to tell if it was actually filmed on a set or if it was an actual street scene, and I've determined now it is an actual street scene. The way I was able to get the scene to line up are these curbs here, and that's when I was doing my Google Street View, I was able to literally just go walking. Unfortunately, that Google Street View was taken about a year apart. So there was one that showed these bump out windows clearly displayed, and then there was another one with this construction. And this construction's been here for a couple of years, so I don't know what the plan is. But that's how I was able to find the Fluff and Fold and then their apartment, which is actually right next door. And the alleyway, which I originally thought was filmed either at the Warner Ranch or somewhere else. And I wasn't sure because of that street back there, because the street and the building definitely did not look like a film set. And it makes sense in the movie because when they turn right, they come just right around the corner here, right to their apartment. I can't get the correct angle because of this construction here, but everything lines up. All this brickwork lines up. And if you actually look inside, they are actual apartments, but you go upstairs, there is not a basement unit like it shows in the movie. But this is Kevin and Kerbo's apartment. And what's funny about those scenes where he's entering the apartment, this is some sort of a furniture store, but then cut to the other scene where it's an actual Fluff and Fold laundry. You could see people walking way back there and cars driving. That's why I thought it was an actual filming location. But here we are in Adams Morgan.
Alec and Leslie receive a late night call from Jules, and in one of the weirder scenes in the movie, he rescues her from a hotel where she's been doing drugs with a bunch of foreign emissaries. We get a very quick shot of a hotel lobby. This doesn't look like any hotel I can find in Washington, but it does look a lot like the lobby of the Omni in Los Angeles at California Plaza. And here's an older photo of the lobby, which looks a lot like the one Alec runs through. The room may have also been shot on location, or it could just be another set. We pick up with Wendy at the clinic where she works. Billy drops by and we learn that he's quit yet another job. As we'll see later, this appears to be a real location. But instead of going for that drink, Billy is invited back to the Beamish mansion, where we learn that Wendy's father is super rich. This location drove me nuts for months. I even found a few websites and Reddit threads with people asking for the location of this house. Apparently, its mere existence has eluded, well, everyone. Using Google Street View, I figured out that it didn't exist in Georgetown, but then I found an interview with one of the screenwriters on the 30th anniversary. He mentioned that a good portion of the movie was shot at the old Columbia Ranch in LA. A quick internet search led me to the celebrated Warner Ranch, where many famous movies and TV shows were filmed. I was alarmed when I found out that it was scheduled for demolition. Several YouTubers gained access before it was completely leveled. And in a couple of videos, I saw a building which looked really familiar, like slap your forehead familiar. And here it is, or was. You can see that they added onto it for the movie, but the bonus for this location is that it was a practical set, meaning that all of the interiors and exteriors were shot here as well. Unfortunately, it was completely demolished along with the rest of the ranch to make way for more sound stages and offices. Here's another photo I found from either the 60s or 70s, and you can see how they used to dress it up or down based on the production. We get another weird encounter between a very drunk Billy and Wendy. In the movie, Wendy is holding out for marriage, but in real life, Mara Winningham was already a wife and mother and very pregnant during the filming. We cut to Halloween at St. Elmo's, and Billy is giving us a rad sax solo, fronting his band Billy Hicks and the New Breed. Of course, the real song is One Love by David Foster. Foster scored the soundtrack to the movie and also wrote the hit tracks Love Theme from St. Elmo's and of course Man in Motion, which was performed by John Parr. Patrick Winningham, Mara's real-life older brother, is also in the band. Things get heated and the fight breaks out on Georgetown Street at Universal Studios. After the Halloween party, Kevin is back to my new favorite alley with Naomi, played by Anna Maria Horsford. I'll always remember her for her role on the TV show Amen with Sherman Hemsley. Cut to another day and Jules and Leslie meet up at the shelter where Wendy works for lunch. If you look closely, you can see high-rise buildings out the windows over their shoulders. This leads me to believe that this was also filmed at the Majestic in downtown LA.
Position now right about where the cameras would have been when Wendy and Leslie were strolling along the C&O Canal. As you can see, the canal is empty. It has been for a good number of years now. I have no idea why, but this was the direction they were coming, heading towards my direction, and the awnings are still there, although they are black and not red. The building still looks the same. The only thing different is that it's early spring and the trees are basically bare. But this was the way they were coming along as they were talking about life coming up this direction.
Billy is in a bathtub partying recklessly. Is this supposed to be the ambassador's house? At any rate, it's a set. This is another crazy scene that folks always seem to remember, when Kirby stalks Dale to the mansion party.
In that scene, Kirby is stalking Dale from across the street in the rain, and he is standing by a tree. I've tried matching up the pattern to this tree, and it is a lot bigger than it would have been during the time of filming. But this is the only tree around here, and this had to have been where he was standing because you can kind of see the pattern of these windows in the background. And unfortunately I can't go any further because there's a car here right next to me. If I could stand out in the street, I'd actually be able to line up the shot. This has to be the tree, right? I mean, it's the only one literally around here. You can see maybe there was a tree here at one point, and we are directly across the street, and you can actually see the building right here.
Across the street is the exterior of Dale's apartment, and here she is driving out the garage in the pouring rain. But where's she going? And we see this apartment several times throughout the movie. One time Kirby pulls up in his car. Another time, right before the party scene, she pulls out of this driveway here and makes a left turn, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the party house is actually about half a block up that direction. Movie magic aside, and even though it was raining pretty heavily in that part of the movie, she still could have just grabbed an umbrella and walked up the street instead of driving around the block, pulling in from that side over there, and then getting the valet. She literally is about half a block from the party house, and that of course is her apartment right there around that rotunda. You can't really get a very good angle, but right around here is where Dale would have parked and she would have been walked out by the valet. Also see this weird shaped apartment building in the background scenes.
Surprisingly, this is about all of the exterior that you see in the movie of this gorgeous old home.
Here's a location for Dale's party house. This is the house that Kirby stalks her to. It's a cocktail party. And from my understanding, they actually did film inside. This home sold several years ago, and there are some listings available online where you can actually see the interior and you can match up some of those shots. But this is the home that Kirby would have looked in through the window during the cocktail party. Kirby is such a little guy, and these windows are pretty tall. I have a hard time believing that he was actually able to peer into these windows.
After entering the party and confronting his obsession, a soaked Kirby is somehow invited back to Dale's apartment. If you're looking for iconic shots, this one was legendary in the 80s. Filmed at Fraternity Row back at the University of Maryland in College Park.
It's been almost 40 years and a lot has changed in that time, but this is roughly the angle that you get when Billy is walking from his fraternity house smoking a cigarette. Go back and watch the movie. There's a lot of random piles of leaves that are smoking. I don't know what that was all about, if that implies that he was throwing his cigarette butts out into the leaves, but there are several piles of leaves that are smoking in those scenes.
Here's Billy's fraternity house that he's walking toward, and then is greeted by his brothers.
So supposedly Billy's fraternity house was the old SAE house, which is number 4 Fraternity Row, and this is the Agora or something like that now. And this has been pointed out as the correct location on a number of different sites.
So what does he do when he's finally back with his boys? Play the most unathletic looking game of tackle football on the quad, that's what. Turns out he's actually looking for a job as some sort of alumni rep, but the chapter president basically states that all he's good for is helping them score drugs. After that rejection, he meets up with his wife and young child on the same quad.
Hard to pinpoint exactly because there aren't actually benches around this field, even though it actually is lined for some sort of sporting event, I think football. But right around here is where Billy is having the scene with his wife, and his newborn baby is there, and they're talking about, or he's talking about making a change in his life, quitting drinking, landing a job, and not annulling their marriage. However, the end of the movie doesn't necessarily follow that path, but you can see this building in the background here, and this is kind of the angle that you get. Again, a lot has changed over time, and there are no benches out here, so maybe those were put in just for the movie. So remember in the beginning of my video when I said we were going to attempt to locate the hospital scenes? Well, I pretty much gave up, and I am actively editing the video right now as we speak. But in March of 2024, Google updated their AI software, and I played around with it, and it directed me to this location. Now, I am somewhere in Maryland, I think Riverdale, Maryland, and this is the Leland Memorial Hospital. And you're probably saying to yourself, this does not look like the building they used. This looks too old. Well, in 1980, they added an extension to it, the modern extension, and that's on the other side of the building. So we're gonna go check that out. This site has struggled financially for years. I believe it was closed in 1990. It's active right now, and we're gonna go see what we can find, but recognize that this is an active care facility. So I'm gonna be very limited, I think, in how much video I'm gonna be able to shoot, but we're gonna see if we can line anything up today versus 1985. So in those scenes, you don't get a very good look at the exterior. Most of the filming was shot at night, and the beginning of the movie, they are primarily inside the lobby area, and then they walk out into the little driveway. So I think there used to be a building right here, but right here is where the ambulance would have been parked. And then over here is where the cop car would have been parked that Billy would have been escorted to. You can kind of see this building here in the background of those scenes. But there used to be a building, I think, like right here. And then there's a scene where Kirby is trying to impress Dale, and he's in the Korean businessman's chauffeured car with his friend driving. And I think it was probably taken right about here. I don't think this tree was here, but there was. I believe there was a tree in the scene. And then you can see the back of the building in the background. You know, strictly for historical reference, we're directly across the street, and there's another medical center right here. And this building looks to be from the same time period, and this matches more of what the movie hospital looked like. So I have some incredible news for you. I talked to some lovely ladies inside. The lady at the front desk didn't know what I was talking about, but she introduced me to a lady that's been here for 20 years. And she said, oh yeah, but that was Leland Memorial Hospital back then. So it was filmed here. She also told me that there have been extensive renovations. So it does look a little different than it did in the movie. And it is a primary care facility, but I was allowed to take photo and video in the lobby. And I tried to exclude the lady at the front desk. So enjoy that right here.
Because somebody did come here before.
Now, one unfortunate thing that I did learn is that the basketball star from the 80s, Len Bias, passed away here. I didn't realize when I started this video just how many set locations remain to be rediscovered, even though many of them are hiding in plain sight. This is another one that took me months to find on Google. It's a few short blocks north of the old 3rd Edition, just off Wisconsin Avenue in Georgetown. I had just about given up on this location thinking it was filmed on a set until I did the Google Street View and just literally walked up and down these blocks of Georgetown. On the location of Alec and Leslie's apartment. They only show it one time from the exterior. The rest is just filmed on a soundstage, and it's right here. So in the movie, it's actually 3232, but the address here is 3230, and I believe we're on P Street, and we're right off of Wisconsin Avenue, so we're just not too far from the exterior filming locations for St. Elmo's Bar. A couple of things still line up, however, I believe this is not apartments, it's a retail establishment. There is a stairwell, but this is a store. This is the biggest tell. This is clearly visible in the movie. I'm not sure what this is for, but this, along with this brick exterior pattern, this building is actually white in the movie, but this lines up to a T. And of course, Wendy and her new weird boyfriend are here in their yellow Aries K car, parked right here. It's a gorgeous fall day, and it rained last night, so it looks a little bit like it did in the movie. However, that shot was filmed at night, and Alec and Leslie come out through here, get into the K car, and then they're off to the party.
Tensions amongst the friends really heat up at Mr. Kim's house, where Kirby throws a party while the businessman is out of town. My best guess for this location is one of the houses at the Warner Ranch with a dressed up interior. Kirby has an insane meltdown outside Dale's apartment. Why didn't her roommate call the cops? He learns that she's on a ski trip with her boyfriend, which is why she wasn't at the party.
Made my way to College Avenue, and we are just beside Greek Row, or whatever they call it here, where all the fraternities and sororities are. This is College Avenue, and this is considered the old town College Park from what I understand. There's some really beautiful old homes through here. So originally I thought that the Demi Moore, Rob Lowe scene could have been filmed here, since they were already in College Park shooting the fraternity football scene with his wife and his baby. After they get drunk, they go back to Rob Lowe's house. Demi Moore is dropping him off, and they try to rekindle some sort of a romance. When I did a Google Street View throughout this area, there were some homes that looked very similar to the one in the movie, and I thought if they already had partial cast here filming those scenes, especially the introduction to the movie where they're graduating, it was quite possible that they could have taken an evening and filmed here also. However, I have now pretty much convinced myself that that was also filmed at the Warner Ranch. But I can be swayed, because walking through here on a fall day, just like the movie, it does look a lot like that scene, even though it was completely dark. You do see a house across the street in the background. Kind of see what I mean with these drives and these arched roofs. In this house here, you'd have these little long turn-ins here. It looks very reminiscent of the movie. And then across the street, one building that has the 3 windows like that, but this building doesn't match up. So, and trust me, I went through just about every house in this neighborhood and nothing lines up. It's also my understanding that a young Rob Lowe caused quite a scene here amongst the co-eds. He was spotted at one point, according to an article, in a station wagon driving around town, I guess with a production assistant, and the fans were just sort of swooning and beating on the car. He was already pretty famous at that point. It's conceivable that they would have done some additional filming here after the rest of the cast had moved on.
Things really heat up in the next couple of scenes as Kirby drives to Dale's cabin. Kevin and Leslie finally get together. Alec finds out. Wendy and Harry get to meet a really angry Mr. Kim, and Kirby gets his comeuppance with Guy's approval. This movie gets weird, man. Anyway, this location is in Tahoe on Prosser Dam Road in Truckee, California. Good luck finding it, as the road is private. My theory is that this location was loaned out to Schumacher by a studio executive or someone on his production team, and is still a private residence. Another scene that eludes location hunters is the E&J Cafe. I believe this was shot on the backlot at Warner Studios or Universal and dressed up to look like DC. From my research, I can't find any historical reference to an E&J Cafe, and this is where Wendy meets up with her dad to discuss her future plans. Leslie moves out. Kevin finally gets published. Kevin and Leslie seem to be on the outs. Jules is dating her boss. Nice props to the Haagen-Dazs in Georgetown. But everything comes to a head when Jules suffers a nervous breakdown and locks herself in her apartment. The gang is forced to confront the fracturing of the group dynamics. The fire escape scene and Jules' apartment look like something out of a World War II movie. Hennessy Street at the Warner Studios in Burbank has a number of buildings with fire escapes, and there were a few streets at the Warner Ranch that had them also. And in a fit of eloquence, Billy explains the meaning of St. Elmo's fire to Jules, and the point of the entire movie, if we're being honest. Billy says goodbye to Wendy, if you catch my drift, and leaves on a bus for New York. The station is another hard to find location, but the Big Tell is the name of the bus line. It's completely made up. I figured this one out from those YouTube videos that I mentioned earlier. I'm sad to say that this was filmed at the famous gas station that was at the Warner Ranch and featured heavily in so many great movies and TV shows. I know it doesn't look it here, but the exterior of this building was chameleon-like, depending on the production, and could stand in for practically any type of building. There's a reason set designers win much-deserved Academy Awards. After leaving Billy behind, they take one walk past St. Elmo's and decide not to stop for a drink, because they're all adults now and have to wake up early for work. Okay guys, welcome back. What did you think? I had an absolute ball making this video. Scouting them was actually very much fun. But for now, I need to get back to St. Elmo's because some guy named Kirby called out and I'm stuck working his shift. So I will catch you guys in the next video.